Hey everybody, it's Zach here from Thieving Boys, and welcome to my Master Farmers Pickpocketing Guide. Master Farmers are a pretty good way to grab your seeds, especially herb seeds, and overall it's a pretty simple moneymaker. In this video I'm going to start with the requirements and then the general recommendations for these fellas. Then we'll talk about the location of Master Farmers and actually get into the methods, since it's ever so slightly more difficult than just clicking on them as much as you can. And at the very end we'll get into the rates, including the XP rates and the GP rates if you're here to sell your seeds. You do need 38 thieving to start pickpocketing Master Farmers, but right at 38 you're going to fail so many pickpockets that you'll wish you never watched my videos. So I wouldn't even start this until you're at least 50 thieving, but clearly the higher thieving, the more you're going to get out of this. The Rogue's gear consists of 5 pieces that you can obtain through the Rogue's Den minigame. Each piece of gear gives you a 20% chance of receiving double loot, so with the full set, you get double loot with every single pickpocket. This is a really big deal when it comes down to getting your herb seeds or making legit money out of this. You do need 50 thieving to get into the Rogue's Den, which is another reason that I would suggest having at least 50 to start this method up. If you get either the Thieving Skill Cape or you do your Ardougne Hard Diaries, both of these can add a 10% chance to not fail a pickpocket, and even though they stack with each other, you really only need one or the other. At 94 Thieving, if you have your Ardougne Hards done, you'll stop failing any pickpockets from the Master Farmers. But if you get up to 99 Thieving and you get the Thieving Cape, that alone will also stop you from pickpockets as long as you're wearing the Thieving Cape. That doesn't go with the Ardougne Cloak though. All you have to do is complete your Ardougne Hard Diaries and you get that 10% boost. There is no situation where you would need both to stop failing from pickpockets, or somehow getting both would make it any faster, because once you have a Thieving Cape, you're at the point where it's as fast as it can get. And if you get the Ardougne Hards done early, then you don't have to go all the way to 99 to get to that point. You can start a little earlier, like 94. I highly suggest unlocking the seed box, which is a reward from the Tithe Farm. By no means do you have to have the seed box to do this, but it's going to make a big difference in the long run. The seed box can hold up to 6 different types of herb seeds at once, and up to a max stack of each seed, which is more than you'll ever get, most likely. Using the seed box can help you from not ever having to bank, unless of course you're low enough level that you're failing pickpockets. Then you're going to have to bank a little bit due to food. I would also like to mention the Dodgy Necklace, which is an enchanted opal necklace. You could also just buy them from the Grand Exchange. They are very cheap. If you're wearing this necklace when you fail a pickpocket, you actually have a 25% chance that you don't fail that pickpocket, which makes a little bit of a difference on your XP rates, especially when you're trying to get up to the point where you don't fail pickpockets anymore. There are a few Master Farmers around Old School that you can pickpocket from. The simplest one is in Draynor Village. In the long run, this is the least efficient farmer to use, but if you're at any point that you need to bank occasionally, then this is the one for you. The Draynor Bank is very close by, and you're not going to lose that much XP from running to the bank, and overall the XP rates here are still fine. We'll talk about luring a little bit more later in this video, but there are a couple spots that this farmer can kind of be lured to be stuck in one spot. It just doesn't really work so cleanly in Draynor Village, so I won't go that in depth on this spot. The next spot is in the Hosidious House on Zaya. This farm is a popular option for those who don't fail pickpockets, and if you have the seed box, because you're not that close to a bank. The benefit of this farmer is when you lure it into a nice spot, you can close the door behind you, and you don't have to worry about losing the spot. He will be locked in there, basically for good, as long as you don't completely blow it. Again, you are pretty far from a bank at this point, so it's more of like a higher level version of the Master Farmer. And the last spot that I'll talk about is my favorite personally, just north of Ardougne. This farmer doesn't have a very far wander zone, and once he's lured into his spot, it becomes extremely AFK to use. It's also fairly close to a bank, so if you need to bank up occasionally, you won't kill your XP rates by doing it. Let's get a little more in depth on pickpocketing these guys, since I did bring up luring without explaining what and how at all, how luring works with them. I'm going to start with the Hosidious spot quick, since it is a very viable option for sort of late game farmers in a way. You don't do much to actually lure a Master Farmer is the thing. For these guys, luring is more like waiting around until they walk into the right spot, since you can't attack them or get them to follow you in any way. This backyard area of the farmer's house is towards the edge of his wander area, so once he walks outside you can close the door, and he's stuck out here for good. You only have 12 spaces that he can move to. This can take a while since you have very little influence on where he walks, and it's kind of a large house that he lives in, but that's the nice part about this spot, is once he's in the backyard, it's nearly impossible to let him out on accident. At this point, you only have one thing to mainly pay attention to. For any NPC, if it gets stuck in the same square for 5 minutes straight, it's going to despawn. So the only spot here that can happen is right up against the door. So anytime that he's pinned on the door, make sure you back off before 5 minutes so that he can walk around a little bit and you'll reset that despawn timer. Since there's still a small roaming area available, you do have to watch the farmer a little bit compared to Ardougne Knights when they're lured into 1 or 2 squares and you can just rapid click the same spot. But overall it doesn't take that much effort, especially compared to the Draynor spot. In terms of what seeds that I'm dropping, your inventory is going to fill up a little bit, so you'll eventually have to drop some seeds or bank, and that's kind of a judgment call on your end. I mostly choose the berry seeds, especially since I've gotten a large enough amount of them from starting in Draynor that I don't feel like I really need to bank any extras. I've got as many as I'll likely need. These seeds are fairly rare, so you don't get them as often, which is better than dropping seeds like potato seeds, because you get those all the time, and it'll refill that inventory spot very quickly. In general, I lean for dropping like the rare seeds that you don't need. So don't drop any expensive seeds or seeds that you're going to need to keep in the long run. Try to stick to the cheap ones, but the ones that don't show up as often so you don't have to drop consistently. Let's talk about the Artie spot a little bit. This farmer has a smaller wandering zone, but sometimes he can take a little while to get him to walk into his room. Admittedly, it can be a little bit frustrating, but he's only able to stand in the first small area of the house and just has like one line to walk in. But unlike the Hosidious House, you can't close this door to make sure he doesn't leave. Instead of closing the door, you just have to make sure you're standing between him and the door at all times so he won't walk through you and get out of there. Since there's just one straight line that he can stand in, you have to pay a lot more attention to not pinning him up on the wall for 5 minutes so that it'll despawn. But the fact that he consistently gets stuck in that one spot allows you to just spam click it to pickpocket, which is super convenient. I find this spot to be a lot more AFK than the other spots around the game, and obviously it's very easy to pickpocket the Master Farmer in general, but if you're going to actually spend some good time in this, you might as well do it the best you can. Let's talk about the rates a little bit, both XP and GP. If you don't fail any pickpockets, you can get 120k thieving XP an hour, but that's nearly a perfect rate, so you're probably not going to pull that off. And if you're just barely 50 thieving, let's say, you can cut that at least in half. The success rate at 50 thieving is above 50%, but you also get stunned whenever you fail a pickpocket, so that adds even more time, and having to bank is going to add more time on that too. I assume the average player in this video will be getting somewhere between 60 and 70k XP an hour. But if you're hoping I would be able to nail the exact XP that you're going to get in your exact situation, maybe you just want to go drop 5 or 10 minutes into the method and see what your XP rates are looking like. Each pickpocket is 43 experience, so if you were doing 100k thieving XP an hour, which is very reasonable at 99 thieving, that's 2,325 pickpockets every hour. The majority of your money comes from Ronnar seeds and Snapdragon seeds, mostly the Ronnars though, since they're not very rare, but they are expensive. You have a 1 in 302 chance of getting a Ronnar seed, and then a 1 in 2,083 of getting the Snapdragon. That's 7 to 8 Ronnar seeds an hour and 1 Snapdragon seed an hour. I'm assuming you have the Rogue's Gear, so we'll say it's about 15 Ronnars and 2 Snapdragons every hour, which with the current prices is right about 750k an hour. And then you fill in the other seeds that you get, you approach 800k plus on average. But it also comes down to getting everything on the drop rate. You could very well have an hour where you get over a mil worth of seeds just because you get lucky on like 2 or 3 Ronnar pickpockets. And then you can have an hour where you get maybe more like 500k because you just can't pull those Ronnar seeds to save your life. Keep in mind, if you want more accurate numbers for your situation, you should be plugging in your XP rates and what the current prices of seeds are, since they are bound to change by the time I put the video out. I believe those are all the major points I wanted to make about Master Farmers. In all reality, it's a very simple money-making method, so I wanted to make the video short and sweet, but either way, I'm hoping you got some helpful information about it, and best of luck on your grind.